Welcome in Wednesday edition, Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready is in the Clark Ford studio today. We'll talk. We're getting pretty comfortable with these days: NIL lawsuits, EA Sports, and the Brandr Group going at it in the, or they might go at it in the courts. I don't know. Hit that a little bit. ESPN with a pretty interesting top 25 ranking over the next 3 years. Kind of would you buy, sell stock in programs over a 36-month period. Got some recruiting going on. Busy day in Mississippi yesterday. Football, also a baseball thing of note that I find interesting. So that more coming up on today's show. A show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. If you're here locally, to let them take care of dinner tonight. A lot of stuff in the hot case: the ribs, the chicken, the sides, the desserts. Tons of options for you there with the Oxford Exxon. And then if you're in the Clinton or Brookhaven areas, they got the homemade donuts. Let them handle breakfast or a snack for you in that regard. They're homemade every single morning. A lot of variety, a lot of flavors, a lot of good options there in Brookhaven and Clinton. And again, Neal is in the Clark Ford studio.
I am Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for my friend Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote. And the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. And that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Great service. Great products. Corey and the people at Clark Ford want to be your car guy. They want to be your truck guy. They'll prove to you what that means when you make the call. 662-257-1900. Guest will join on the myperfectfranchise.net hotline. If you're a displaced corporate executive wanting to put your career in your own hands, maybe you're an experienced entrepreneur simply looking to diversify, either way, Andy Ludicky can help. He owns multiple franchises and businesses, uses his expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. So call Andy, put your life and your career in your own hands. It's 100% free. So you've got nothing to lose. Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net or contact Andy at myperfectfranchise.net or call his cell 404-973-9901.
See a couple people in the stream. Blake, Rebel Munchkin, congrats on getting back in your homes. Power been out all over for a while now. Blake says he's been without power for 6 days until came back on this morning, and then Rebel got back in last night. So can't. Neal's been through the weather stuff. I just that has to be a feeling when it comes back on and you can sort of resume at that point. That's probably almost unlike anything else. It does definitely make you appreciate some of those modern conveniences.
It makes you wonder how people lived without air conditioning. I'll never be able to relate to that.
How much of your hurricane stuff did you stay at the house versus somewhere else? How many days did you do? I mean, did you just check on it, or did you actually camp out a little bit?
I left for Ivan, came back, got back, had a disaster, stayed there for a couple of days, had to go cover a football game, came back from the football game and kept working. And then after that, I said, I'm never leaving again. And I didn't leave again. I didn't leave for Katrina. And it seems like there was another one that I didn't leave for. I was never going to, had we been coast lifers, Ivan was the last one I was leaving for. If it wiped us away, it wiped us away, but I was never leaving again.
What is the mindset for not leaving? I mean, like, where do you get to mentally for that to be the case? And I'm not criticizing. I'm really curious just from the mental condition at that point.
Frankly, it was my wife was so concerned about the house that there was no point in me going with them someplace because I was going to have to turn around and get back. And getting back when you can't get fuel is a problem.
Yeah.
And so just staying there made more sense. Because, I mean, if I remember right, Ivan came through on a Wednesday night, maybe a Thursday night. I don't remember. We were in Birmingham, and we knew it was bad. We'd heard reports that it was bad. And she's like, you got to go check. You got to go check. And so I got in the car with Miller the dog and drove down to Spanish Fort, knowing that, hey, I was probably going to have to get to Auburn and get back through. It was a pain. And I was like, I don't know where I'm going to get gas. And sure enough, getting gas was a problem. But I found a place to get gas. And by the end of that, I said, I'm not doing this again. Because the fences were down. It was a disaster. It was a lot. And then we didn't get hit that hard with Katrina, but we lost power for a while because the winds were 100 miles an hour gust. Pine trees literally bent like perpendicular to the ground. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And you knew, like, I remember thinking, whoever's getting the brunt of this, my God. And I was right. But we didn't have power, and so you didn't know until the power came back on, like, the next day. I guess we lost it for a day. When it came back on and you started seeing the news reports, you're like, oh, wow.
Did you have Miller and Wrigley then, or just one?
I had them both, but I only took one with me.
Okay.
One was a pain in the ass. So I took.
Like, so you took the one that was better equipped for that mission. Is that how that worked?
I took the one that would mind. Yeah.
Yeah. When you stay, I mean, what do you like? What are you doing? Are you making sure you got charcoal for the grill? Do you have some meat, bottled water? I mean, what is the stay rations versus the just the canned food kind of thing that we all talk about?
Yeah, you took a couple of coolers and you put water and beer, and if you wanted to brave it, milk.
Yeah.
And then you put meat products. You made sure everything was hard frozen, so when the power went out, it was going to take a little while for it to melt. And you had a big green. I had charcoal and I had the egg, and it really was kind of fun for a couple of nights. If I'm being totally honest.
Now, look, there's a limit, but yeah, it's.
It wasn't so bad for a couple of days. I mean, little isolated time. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. But no, it would have.
Do you have some neighbors stay too? I mean, I mean, is there ever like you look around and like the neighborhood people just grilling out and hung around?
Yeah, I mean,
you got like a buddy or something?
In Spanish Fort, I had some buddies. The late John Ingram comes to mind, and he was in the same boat. He was like, I'm not leaving. And we had a few and put some stuff on the grill, and it wasn't so bad for a couple of days. Now it would have gotten old for 6 days. The people that were the people that were a week without power in the Jackson area, God bless them. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah, in so many ways.
Yeah, it's brutal because you get past about 2 days, and it was never fun. But you get past 2 days, and suddenly, like, food is an issue, and just feeling decent is an issue. You're hot. I mean, it's hot. You can't cool your house at all, and just you don't sleep well.
Yeah, physically and mentally, the tank just starts emptying.
Yeah.
Both of them. Yeah, bad place to be. So congrats. Glad you guys got that back. You're here with us this morning. It's speaking of hot, first day of the summer. Summer solstice today. So the longest day of daylight of the year today. So if you want to get out, you can enjoy that a little bit. Today's the most you're going to get. I don't know that I knew until this morning. I'm not smarter than a fifth grader, Neal. I did not know that. I did not recall, at least. I guess I knew at one point in my life that the solstices were the long day and night, and when the poles tilt toward the sun at maximum angles, whereas the equinoxes are when the day and night are even. I had no clue. Did not know that until I read it this morning.
Oh, really?
So, did you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah. I did not know that. I was not. Yeah, like I said, I learned that in elementary school, I am sure, but I was not aware that equinoxes was Latin for equal night.
Yeah, for some reason I knew that. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
that Louisiana public school education kick.
There you go. Yeah. Just of all things, I don't know why my camera keeps trying to refocus. Of all things, that is one that I just did not remember from my 5th, 6th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade, whenever that is. But I promise it will not be blurry in a second. If you kind of get close to it, it sort of like fixes itself. I don't know what the deal is.
There was a question.
It only did this. Go ahead.
There was a question in the thread about the studio. There's a camera that's just out, and so we can do it where I look like Andre the Giant and Chase looks like a 4th grader. But this, frankly, looks better than that, and so we're doing that until we get the camera fixed. I'm working on
It,
getting the camera fixed, but right now we've tried a couple of different things, and so far it's not fixing. And to be perfectly honest, I'm trying to avoid having to buy another camera.
it also is it's close enough to our previous setup that it's fairly comfortable. Like I really don't it doesn't bother me. I thought that it would bother me just from an interaction standpoint, but I don't notice a ton of difference. It's not really affecting me.
No, I'm actually sort of impressed with the Ecamm interview link app. I'm,
Hmm.
I'm fairly impressed with its capability.
Yeah, not too bad. Uh, let's start recruiting. I got a couple things. Yesterday, Ole Miss grabbing up some linemen out of Louisiana, and then State coming back yesterday with a couple wide receiver commits. Obviously, J.J. Harrell, Burnside as well. Yeah, the camera is no longer blurry. It'll just take about 30 seconds for it to get to you guys. Um, I guess let's start with the State part of it. Is this a counter to some of the stuff Ole Miss has been doing in a few days, in your opinion? And I guess Harrell specifically, like it is June 20th and June 21st. We know that recruiting in the summer means very little other than somebody might be ahead going into later in the year. What is the concern factor if you're Ole Miss on anyone that they would want here?
Okay, so I guess I'll attack that from a number of ways. Number one,
Wherever. Yeah, sure.
yeah, number one, Braylon Burnside's a kid from Starkville. A Starkville kid committing to Mississippi State is not shocking any more than an Oxford kid committing to Ole Miss would be shocking. Frankly, it would be sort of surprising if he committed anywhere else. Chad Bumpus, the wide receivers coach at Mississippi State, is a really good recruiter.
Yes.
He's very good at his job. He was a very strong acquisition for State to add to that class. I mean that staff. This is going to come across as a criticism of J.J. Harrell. I don't mean for it to be. It's a statement of fact. This is his third commitment. He's one of those guys that until he signs, being committed just means you lead. So I think
Yeah.
this means that Mississippi State leads for him. I think he's a good player. I think Burnside's a really good player. Ole Miss would like both of them. So would several schools. There was a question on the message board at rebelgrove.com. If you're not a subscriber, by the way, you can subscribe to rebelgrove.com. It is the same price today as it was when Ivan hit, when Katrina hit, probably back when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. It was the same price. So you get in today, you can participate in these conversations at rebelgrove.com. It's part of the Rivals Network. But there's a question on there about, is Ole Miss ever going to dominate the state of Mississippi in recruiting? I'll give you my answer. No. And I don't think, number one, I don't think it's possible. I don't think State's going to allow it. And number two, I don't think that is even a remote priority for Ole Miss right now. This particular coaching staff, I just don't think focusing on Mississippi because a kid is from Mississippi is their focus. Is that right or wrong? I mean, I've got thoughts. But it doesn't really matter. I think they're trying to. I think Lane Kiffin wants to win at a national level, and to do that, he just wants the best players. And if they're from Mississippi, great. If they're not, so be it. I literally think that's their philosophy as it pertains to in-state recruiting. I don't think this is a reflection on Derek Nix or anything like Derek's. In fact, Derek's done as good of a recruiting job in the last couple of years as he's done in his entire career, and he's always been an exceptional recruiter. So I just think this is State prioritizing a couple of guys, and I don't think it's a reflection on anything else. I just don't think Mississippi State's ever going to allow Ole Miss to dominate in-state in recruiting. And then there are some other outside things with handlers and 7-on-7 people and stuff that frankly doesn't naturally skew Ole Miss's way inside the state.
What would dominating even mean? Like that's a really vague term. I mean, what would that even look like in your mind? Because you're never getting everybody because you're dealing with another SEC school that also recruits too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, that's impossible.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's like, people do the whole top 10, top 8, top 12, whatever, and how many should you get out of that? I don't know that I would look at it that way. I just would look at it as, hey, I've got 85 spots. This staff, at least if you go by the last 2 years, and they've been here for 3 and 4 if you count the COVID year. But so at least 50% and up to 67% of the time that they've been here, they've gone heavy on the portal. So if you're using half of your spots for portal and half of your spots for high school kids, I don't know how much of that half how many of those 40 some odd spots are you focused on Mississippi? I think at that point you're just getting the best players you can get.
Now, in saying that, of the kids that are high level SEC quality that are inside the state, you shouldn't lose more than you get, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, but look, there are some things that are somewhat out of your control. You can't control who Mississippi State prioritizes. And I'm not trying to dance around it, but it's just not worth getting into it. They've got some issues. They've had those issues. Hugh Freeze had those issues and tried aggressively to get around them, to accommodate them, and really didn't. And they exist today, and I don't know all the dynamics of it. You might better than I do, but there are just some things that work against them on some guys. And then I guess I'll leave it at that. And then they've had some success, like the Oliver offensive lineman, John Wayne Oliver. By the way, if you're named John Wayne something, you're probably going to be a badass. But I mean, he's a kid that Auburn wanted very much. TCU wanted him very much. He's highly thought of as a recruit. Ole Miss did a really good job recruiting him. They brought him in. They got Bryson Sanders a year earlier. They're recruiting those kinds of kids for offensive linemen out of that Nashville area, which is just 4 hours from here, a little less than 4 hours. I just think you can see that. I mean, Ole Miss is going to recruit they're recruiting all these kids from. You mentioned Jamonte Waller yesterday. Ole Miss is recruiting him. They've recruited him as hard as they can. They had one of the top Mississippi kids in the state on campus yesterday again. But everybody else recruits them too. You can only sign a certain number of guys, and that number is smaller today than it was 3 or 4 years ago because of the portal.
And they're taking more high school kids, but it's still not going to be 25 high school kids.
I don't think
it's just not.
I mean, I don't think so. They're at 12, 13 right now in this class, and they're going to add more, which is a bigger number than maybe what they had the last couple of years. And I think that's a product of they've had some continuity in winning. The staff has been together a little bit longer. They've now had some post-COVID time to establish roots and that kind of thing in the state. So, and around the state, just throughout the South. And then, they want to recruit nationally. Whether they can or can't, we'll see. But they want to. I mean, I think he, being Lane Kiffin, looks at this and just says, hey, I want the best players I can get, period.
Yeah, he has a pool of wide receivers. He doesn't have Mississippi wide receivers and Texas wide receivers and California wide receivers and on and on and on. It's just wide receivers.
Yeah, and Ole Miss has had a pretty good run of success with wide receivers, dating back multiple coaching staffs. So, but again, Bumpus is a really good recruiter, and to not give him any credit would be false. He's very good at what he does. He's I think a lot of people consider him a fast riser in coaching circles. So, I mean, you and I talk about this all the time when, you're talking about college baseball or college football or whatever in games, right? The other team scouts too. The other team preps, they practice. Well, they recruit too. You know, they're paying guys to recruit, to evaluate and recruit and stuff like that, and they're going to get their share of guys.
Yeah, you were never going to shut State out. It's an impossibility. They typically really put their hooks in 1, 2, 3 guys and focus on them. They go for a quality over quantity standpoint in Mississippi. They, in some ways, because that's what's necessary with their NIL situation as it currently is. It makes sense for them given their limitations and what they have to whatever. They make sure they try to roll in a big fish or two in every class. They did last year, Isaac Smith, other guys. You've seen it all the way back to. I mean, that hasn't even been like an Arnett thing or a Leachman thing. That's kind of been a state thing over the years, dating back to
the old NIL. That's they would do it.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember a time when they lost an in-state wide receiver that they really wanted, and the counter was to put a lot of the old NIL into a certain defensive lineman that they got. And that's not a criticism. Yeah. Everybody did it. I mean, Ole Miss had old school NIL too. I mean, everybody did it.
And now, State's biggest thing that was kind of fascinating was it was such a secret until the end. You know what I mean? They did a good job of like almost making it dramatic because it was like this last minute stuff and whatnot. I mean, it's, you know, we all talk about the Chris Jones saga, but even in addition to that, I mean, you know, certain head coach calling certain reporter when Jeffrey Simmons was doing it. I mean, like it's they don't even know at the very end of the day until it happens.
What a day.
I mean, I try not to make too much out of that, but at the same time, you raise the hand and go, hold on a minute. Huh? You didn't know?
Or I literally said that. I said, you don't know? He didn't know.
You broke the news. It had just happened, right?
Said, yes. It was happening. And I said, well, you know now.
Yeah. Whew. That was if you're going to write a book, those years could be a book. There was a lot in those 3-4 seasons there as everything was going on. So anyway, show sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things. Sometimes life gets you bogged down. You may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in a way that you want to. Working with a therapist can be a great way to get closer to the best version of you because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything life throws at you. If you use a therapist, you get somebody without any preconceived notions. Family and friends are great to talk to. But at the same time, they have their own thoughts. They have their own opinions. They're more emotional about it. Talk to a therapist that has a clean slate and is just there for you. So if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp's a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire. Get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/MPW today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MPW.
Our next partner is Athletic Greens. I drink AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted better gut health, sustained energy, immune system support, I should say, and I just don't like taking pills if I can avoid it. I drink AG1 every morning. I love knowing I'm doing something good for my body, giving my body the nutrition it craves, covering my nutritional bases for the day literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix 1 small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing in the morning. Done. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. It's pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. It's a win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/MPW. That's athleticgreens.com/MPW. Check it out. Are you vacationing on Florida's Emerald Coast this summer? Whether you're staying from 30A to Pensacola Beach or anywhere in between, please check out Captain Lee Comerford with Salty Lab Charters. Licensed and insured, he offers custom excursions such as dolphin watching along Destin beaches, Crab Island sandbar experiences, and much more. He's an Ole Miss grad, an Air Force veteran, has more than 30 years of boating experience along Florida's Emerald Coast. All trips are private to your group. So maximum of 6 per group. So check him out on Instagram or book today at saltylabcharters.com. Use the code RebelGrove20 to save 20% off of your excursion. This is codes due is good, I should say, through the end of June. You can apply the code to any charter booked in 2023. Again, that's saltylabcharters.com. We're also brought to you by Lake Hill Motors in Corinth, Mississippi. Check out their zero-turn Bobcat mowers. They have a complete line of mowers ranging from the entry-level residential ZT2000 with a cutting speed of 7 miles per hour to the top-of-the-line commercial ZT7000 with a mowing speed of 13 miles per hour. All Bobcat mowers come with the trademarked Tough Deck cutting system. It's constructed with heavy-gauge fabricated steel for durability and improved vacuum lift, providing a reliable, perfectly manicured finish every time. The Bobcat line is priced below MSRP, comes with a 3-year warranty, and currently Bobcat's offering 0% financing for 60 months or up to $2,000 cash discounts for cash purchases on or financing at regular rates. So get $100 off if you mention that you heard about it on the podcast. Contact Michael McCullough at 662-871-6918 or visit him in person, 2003 Highway 72 East Annex in Corinth.
Podcast is brought to you by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They deliver locally in the Oxford area and they offer medicine for your prescriptions the same day each month and take care of you. They'll help you transfer your medications. You make one phone call and they take care of the rest. So whether it be in Holly Springs with Tyson Drugs or G&M here in Oxford, let a community pharmacy take care of all your pharmaceutical needs. Again, that is 662-236-2222. Had a couple people on Twitter asking for comments. I'll be honest, this is going to show my age and hopefully some level of my maturity level. And I did post it on the board, but the Stephen F. Austin bowling story that's going around with the ridiculous quotes. I was sad to learn they had kids. That was my main takeaway from that story. I mean, if you're the reporter, you absolutely run the quotes. He did his job correct. You're amazed the guy gave the quotes that made a laughing stock of the entire situation. But when I looked on the website and saw they had children, I went, God, that's on the internet forever, guys. What are we doing? Like, I don't know. It kind of I know it's an easy low hanging fruit to laugh about, but I kind of had like a really sick feeling in my stomach, if I'm honest.
Same.
100. I mean, I
100%. I know why everybody's laughing at it. I get it. No one can believe that he said those things out loud.
It's fair.
But still.
The headline writer should get a raise. I give him credit.
It was very creative.
It's very creative.
But that's going to be on Google for a long time. And yeah.
My two things that I tried to check was that, and then two, whether they were related to Mark Lemke, the former Braves infielder. It does not appear so, but it's a really random name, so that's what I was just curious. I didn't know if there was a connection.
I knew a girl in graduate school whose last name was Lemke, and I always asked her if she was related to Mark Lemke, and she didn't think she was. So apparently that name's a little more common than we think. But you would think super, like, yeah.
First
time I heard her name, I was like, "Are you related to the Braves second baseman?" Because she was from Georgia, and she was like, "What?" And I said, Mark Lemke. And she's like, "I have no idea who you're talking about." And I was like, "Oh, I figured y'all were like related or something." She's like, "No." That was the end of that.
Mark Lemke was born in Utica, New York. So yeah, I guess this person appears to be from Wisconsin.
Kind of dumb on my part to assume that because he played in Georgia that just trying to make conversation,
Well, I mean, the Braves God, my camera's blurry again. I don't know. It'll fix itself. The Braves, if anything, they take a lot of homegrown talent, so you never know. It could be correct, but he was committed to Purdue before he chose not to attend and be a Boilermaker.
It worked out.
I think he made the right decision.
He played in the bigs for a good while. For a guy his size, he was a little dude.
Yeah, Lemke and Blauser for years.
Yeah. Then the Cubs signed Blauser. Went well.
I mean, when he was like 22, he looked 63. So yeah, by the time he was a Cub, he was kind of ancient.
He looked like Biden
Oh,
and played like Biden too. He was terrible.
who did Mark Lemke play his last Major League Baseball game for? He played for two teams, the Braves for the majority of his career, and one team for one season after that. Any idea at all?
Brewers?
That is incorrect.
Okay, I don't know.
In 1998, he was a Boston Red Sox.
Oh, how about that?
He was a Brave from '88 to '97, and then in '98 it says the sharp fielding Lemke left the Braves, and on March 26, '98 he signed as a free agent with the Red Sox. While trying to turn a double play in the game against the White Sox, Lemke was injured in a collision with base runner Chad Kreuter. He suffered a concussion that finished his season and essentially ended his major league career. I did not remember that at all.
I don't either. But 11 years in the bigs for a guy like that's pretty strong.
Yeah. So there's your fun fact. Speaking of baseball, I mean, I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but at the same time, I think the next few days, and I guess if you ultimately get him, no matter how long it takes, then it's fine. But Ole Miss courting Andrew Fisher, the Duke third baseman. Of the known people that we're aware of that Ole Miss is recruiting, at least are they're reaching out to everyone. I mean, I've really tried to avoid this thing, and I know I'm speaking to the choir because people in the stream, especially, and the podcast people for the most part understand this because we've said it, and you guys are the smart ones. But they contact everyone. So saying, "Hey, so and so got in the portal and Ole Miss reached out," that is not news. It would be really news if they didn't reach out. You know what? I'm not going to see if the Georgia kid who hit 28 home runs is interested. I'll just let that one go. Of course they called. They sent a DM. They jumped into Twitter. Whatever. I mean, yeah, duh. I mean, this is nonsensical. It's not a story. Um, but what is a story is almost every time this happens, I kind of raise the hand and go, "Yeah, but I'm hearing so and so or so and so or so and so is the favorite or whatever." I mean, the kid that Dakota Jordan from Mississippi State, most think it's either Georgia or LSU for him after he got in the portal yesterday.
I've heard
The
Georgia.
state, yeah,
Pretty
the
strong.
state fans think Georgia because the other kid went to Georgia. Some coaches in the conference believe LSU could be a
Oh,
factor here with NIL money. So we'll see where that heads. But my point being is Fisher is the most talented name that has also the best chance at the same time, kind of the combination. And Ole Miss securing him feels pretty important just on getting one of these guys on. We know they've got some NIL money, but at the end of the day, you got to close. And as we said yesterday, there's a big difference in whatever the NIL money is when you need two dudes versus needing 10 dudes. That's a different salary cap. That's figuring out how you want to acclimate that through the entire process. So I think Fisher is a big deal for Ole Miss. They really need to secure him to kind of show that they are playing in the same pool as some of these other teams here in the next couple of weeks. A lot of SEC teams on him. Just getting a visit. Ole Miss, one of the first teams on him. They've done a nice job, but you got to finish it now. You got to get him on a sign him a dotted line. You got to get him enrolled and see where that goes. People have asked, what does that mean for Ethan Leger? Does that mean he's for sure going pro? No, not at all. Leger is a middle infielder by trade. He could move over and play second base if he had to with Peyton gone. So, no, Fisher would probably play third for sure. He could probably play some first if he had to, and you can move Leger to multiple spots. I don't think Leger could play short, but he definitely could play third or second next season if that was necessary. So I think Fisher is a fairly big deal for Ole Miss to get done whenever that happens. But they got a visit from him this week, maybe even on campus now. I'm not 100% sure on timelines, and then see where that goes from there. But just a passing thought is where was moving on a little bit.
You know a lot more about this than I do. The one thing that I consistently hear from people is that the number of players, meaning schools that are playing in the market, is bigger than last year, and there's more commitment to it than it was a year ago, which is good news for the players. It's not great news for the programs that are trying to add a lot of people, but it's good news for the players. Some guys are getting potentially paid enough to put the draft off for a year.
It's a whole new world.
It is
in every way.
It
Just
is. It's a different deal, man. I mean,
Every time I think I kind of understand it, something else happened and goes, nope, we're one more step that way. Never mind. I don't quite have a handle on it.
and then it's kind of like a food chain. You've got some really big fish at the top of the chain that when they decide to eat, they eat. And that might impact your next meal. I mean, the meal you thought you were going to have suddenly is gone. I mean, that's kind of, it's LSU, it's Texas A&M, it's just a lot there. And then there's other schools that are getting involved. Like I keep hearing Oklahoma's kind of ramped it up a little bit as they get ready to join the SEC down the road. I've heard that pretty consistently, that they're more involved in it than they were a year ago, significantly more. So who knows I don't know what that looks like in 2-3 years. Just no clue.
It's a good question from the stream. Who's your favorite journeyman Major League Baseball player? It says his is Trot Nixon.
What do you have to be?
Give
to
you
be
one from my.
like,
You got to play for at least. You got to play for a long time. You got to play for at least 4 teams.
I used to
I
be
don't
a
think
big.
3 is even enough.
I was a big Rondell White fan. He probably meets that criteria.
Let's see, Rondell White. Let's pull it up.
Played for Montreal. Played for the Yankees.
That's a good one. Rondell White played from '93 to 2007, and he played for 7 teams.
Yeah, there you go. He meets the criteria.
He was an All-Star in one season in 2003.
Oh.
He hit .284 with 198 home runs and 768 RBIs in his career. He is from Milledgeville, Georgia, so there is a Georgia player for you.
Yeah.
I think mine is Terry Mulholland.
Oh. Former Cub, Terry Mulholland.
Yeah, 60 years old now. Cub, Brave for a couple years there as well. So I watched him for, I guess, 2 seasons. Giant, Philly, Yankee, Giant again, Philly again, Mariner, Giant again, Cub, Brave, Pirate, Dodger, Indian, Twin, Diamondback.
Oh.
All-Star in one season and pitched a no-hitter in 1990.
Wow. That's a hell of a career. I bet he's got some
stories. I mean, that's a Kevin Bacon kind of guy right there. I mean, like he played it with or connected to everybody. I mean, yeah. Here's a trade for you. In 1989, the Giants traded Mulholland, Dennis Cook, and Charlie Hayes for former Cy Young Award winner Steve Bedrosian and a player to be named later.
Ooh, those are names.
So, yeah, that's how he.
Now Charlie Hayes' kid is the third baseman for the Pirates. I think Bedrosian had a kid that pitched in the majors too. If I remember.
Did really?
I think so. There's a lot of that in baseball, a lot of generational stuff.
The Braves actually acquired Mulholland from the Cubs. They got, the Braves got Mulholland along with infielder Jose Hernandez from the Cubs. I would give you probably my salary for the month if you could tell me one of the 2 players in that trade for the Cubs.
So that's late 90s?
99.
Yeah.
It's the 99 trading deadline.
Yeah. I remember Jose Hernandez pretty well.
He was with Mulholland to the Braves in the trade. Who did the Cubs get? 2 players and a player to be named later, and I don't know who that ended up being.
1999. And that team ended up, that was Hal McCray and those guys that kind of made a run at it.
Mulholland had been really good as a Cub in relief the year before.
Yeah. He was
the starter in the 93 All-Star game.
That wasn't Paul Ossenmacher, was it?
That was not. The trade was Micah Bowie and Ruben Quevedo.
Oh, I remember Micah Bowie.
Do you?
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Man, those were some bad Cubs teams.
Yeah. Mulholland started Game 6 for the Phillies in the '93 World Series against the Blue Jays.
Oh,
That's remembered for Mitch Williams giving up the series-ending home run to Joe Carter.
yeah.
So
Baseball's a goofy sport.
baseball.
Baseball's a
Yeah.
goofy
There's
sport.
there's your baseball trivia for the day. But it's good ones.
How
Lynn
about
Cicada, Julio Franco in the thread.
yeah? How about the
Somebody asking if Charlie
Reds?
Morton counts.
Yeah, Morton
What'd they do?
counts. Yeah, Rich Hill pitches for the Pirates today. He counts. He's been pitching 20 years. Dude's been everywhere.
I'm 8 years old because Twitter calling him Dick Mountain makes me laugh every time. Can't
Yeah,
help it.
yeah.
Every single time I laugh. I just it is what it is. Yeah, Morton 2008 to present. Brave, Pirate, Philly, Astro, Ray, Braves. Yeah, 100%.
If you can pitch and get innings, you'll have a job. If you can just get outs and get it and throw innings, and he's actually been pretty good. Hill's been pretty
Two-time
good.
All-Star, two-time World Series champion.
Yeah, I mean Hill's been really good. He's had a hell of a career.
Yeah. So okay, that's fine. We'll get into this EA thing in a minute. I think in a lot of ways it's a nothing burger, but I think people are wondering about it, so I'll run through a little bit of that. If we do that, I will tell you about Prime Shrimp, primeshrimp.com. 7 different flavors available for you. Everything from the New Orleans style barbecue and the signature, a couple of my favorites, to the full meals in a bag, the simply shrimp that you can season yourself, and much more. So use code RG when you buy 5 pouches or more, and you get 25% off. Also, if there is a Rouse's, you can pick that up there, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, a lot of places for Rouse's. But again, get it shipped straight to you, 10 minutes, freezer to plate for restaurant quality shrimp with Prime Shrimp. That's code RG at primeshrimp.com.
Walk-Ons Sports Bistro puts everything they've got into bringing you game day with the taste of Louisiana. Dig into their mouth-watering, made-from-scratch Louisiana cuisine, po' boys, gumbo, voodoo shrimp, plus fan favorites like juicy burgers and fresh salads at Walk-Ons in Oxford or Ridgeland, especially. If you're at one of those places, please make sure that you tell them how much you appreciate them sponsoring us. The College Corner is your one-stop Rebel Shop. It's got 2 locations in the Jackson area and a location coming soon here in Oxford off of Sisk, there in the Oxford Commons area. We'll have more details about that as the summer goes along, but keep that in mind as you get ready for football season and heading to Oxford. It's a new place to go get gear at the College Corner. There's also locations, as I mentioned, in Jackson, one in Flowood, one in Ridgeland. You can also go to collegecornerstore.com and find them on Facebook and Instagram. We're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating, different names, but the same great people, products, and services. If you live in Oxford, Batesville, Tupelo, or the surrounding area, call Comer 662-801-1777. If you live in Hernando, Memphis, or the surrounding area, call Southern 662-429-4429. A-Stock is a Nashville-based online retail company with a mission to provide customers the power to name their price. All items start at just $1. That's right. Every item starts at just $1, no matter what the retail value may be. Shop now at astock.bid. That's ASTOCK.BID, or download their app. Name your price on thousands of items from big-name retailers. A-Stock has multiple locations around Nashville and Memphis, some in Indiana, and more coming soon that offer local pickups, so don't miss out. Game Changer patches are the only 2-patch system available in the market to stop hangovers before they start. The warm-up patch is used before or while you drink. The overtime patch used after you've been drinking to recover while you sleep. The all-natural ingredients will keep you in the game and ready for your next play. Go to GameChangerPatch.com. Promo code RebelGrove20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase. We're also brought to you by Dead Soxy. It's the best socks you'll ever put on your feet. 25% off at Dead Soxy if you go to deadsoxy.com. Enter the promo code RebelGrove. Again, that's promo code RebelGrove at deadsoxy.com. And we're brought to you by Pinnacle based in Jackson, Mississippi. They've got clients in more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much, much more. At Pinnacle, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. To learn more, go to mypinwealth.com. That's MYPINN wealth.com.
Kenny Lofton is another good one as we close that topic. Stole 325 bases from 92 to 96, averaging 65 a season. That's something not in today's game at all. Came up in 91, and he played at least 10 games for the Astros, Indians, Braves, White Sox, Giants, Pirates, Cubs, Yankees, Phillies, Dodgers, and Rangers.
Yeah, he was part of that 2003 Cubs team. He was really good. I mean, that guy he was the Hall of really good player.
From 2000, so he spent 9 of 10 seasons in Cleveland. That's how we all know him. But then from 02 to 09, he played for 9 different teams, never spending more than one season with any of them.
Yeah, and he was
Moved
good.
every year for 9 straight years.
He was good too. I don't know what that was about. Whether he was just I don't know whether he was a bad clubhouse guy or whether he just had a skill set that you just moved him. I don't know, but he was legit.
Mm-hmm.
He and Aramis Ramirez came at the trade deadline in 2003, and the Cubs went from being a 500 team to a World Series contender like that. God, that was a hell of a trade. Cubs never make a trade like that. That was brilliant.
It's the antithesis of giving Maddox away.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was sitting on the bed, and there was like this thing on the ticker about the Cubs made a trade, and I kept thinking, we got Lofton and Ramirez? Who'd we give up? I kept thinking we probably gave up everybody. And it was like a couple of minor league pitchers or something. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I thought it was a prank.
You expected them to give the entire starting rotation up for those two guys. Like the whole team's gone.
I knew Ramirez was a great player. I mean, I watched he was playing in Pittsburgh, and so you saw the Pirates all the time, and I was like, I can't believe we got that guy. And Lofton?
To having not really watched the Cubs, Ramirez is like one of my favorite dudes. Like for some reason, I kind of gravitated toward watching him when he was a Cub. That was kind of one of the dudes that I would follow a little bit for whatever reason. I don't know why. I always liked him in fantasy back when I did that.
He was a beast. I mean, another guy that was the Hall of very good. Then he was pretty good for the Brewers for a while. After he moved on, dude he was a stud.
Yeah. So this EA Sports thing, EA Sports, obviously the college football video game that has not been around since 2013, mostly or not mostly because of the O'Bannon lawsuit, the UCLA basketball player that started everything and has led to NIL as we know it right now. On Tuesday, the Brandr Group, which is a group that does licensing contracts with schools regarding NILs. Ole Miss uses them. I know they've been involved in multiple of Ole Miss's deals as well. They got a lot of schools coming here. They are suing EA Sports over the company's attempt to acquire player NIL rights, while they say circumventing the Brandr Group's group rights with those schools. So what's kind of going on here is they're trying to bring back EA Sports. It's supposed to come back again the first time since 2013. It was initially supposed to come out in 2023. Now they're saying 2024. They have had to pay players. They're figuring out what to pay players just on a very Cliff Notes version of this. I think I saw somewhere that they had maybe paid thousands over the years of like I think the average was like $1,600 or something like that. A settlement paid an average of $1,600 to thousands of players after expenses and legal fees, and the game disappeared. When they bring it back, it says in May, EA Sports announced a deal with One Team Partners for group licensing, a licensing move often used for team-wide individual NIL usage, such as jerseys. Players can just opt in to be in the game. One Team has worked with EA Sports on group licensing for games like Madden and things like that. And then there was reports saying that players would likely earn around $500 each. So a $5 million pool with no royalties to be in the game. What is essentially happening here is Brandr is saying that they could have worked out a better deal, and that by going around them, even though the players have the ability to opt in, it does some different things to potentially push these players into using the One Team Partners or whomever instead of Brandr, and puts their company at a disadvantage in that, if you will. That's sort of the basis of what they're arguing here. Um, Brandr Group says its athletes get 70% of the cut for video games. That's obviously not what has happened in this case, because that's a number that's not attainable here at this. The lawsuit alleging that EA told the Brandr Group in May 2022 that EA would 100% make agreements through the group for its partner schools, but in May 2023 that didn't happen. And since EA Sports again partnered exclusively with one team, how do Brandr schools opt into the game? Now, again, that is an inaccurate thing that is in the allegations, because they absolutely can opt in. I asked people about it this morning. They said that Brandr schools, simply the same way everybody else is, can opt into to this game. What has come out of this is, at no point, even in the allegations, which usually in these plaintiff allegations, you get stuff that is on the fringe of being true. You're throwing everything out there you could possibly throw out there, and then you let a judge or somebody else bring it back. I mean, you're claiming everything. And even in that, they haven't asked for the game to be stalled. They haven't asked for the players to not be included in the game. I mean, there's really nothing on some, wow, this is changing the way that this game is being operated inside this suit as of the day as it is. So I think it's a big nothing burger. I think it's actually more just about business. I think it is Brandr saying, hey, we feel like you did some things that were not toward. We're putting this suit in, but it's more on the very macro level, not the micro level of trying to stop the game from happening at this point. So that's sort of my interpretation. That is the interpretation of the couple people that I have talked to about this in the last 12, 18 hours or whatever since it came out. Because the argument in a nutshell is, and this is from Chris Benini from The Athletic, says if EA can work around our group licensing contracts to make group NIL deals, then group licensing contracts don't really mean anything at all. Because the point is, if you're contractually supposed to go through them and you go around them, then why do we even exist? Because anybody can just do this at the same time. They're protecting their company more than trying to stop a game. It's not necessarily about the game.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they're just saying, hey, we got a matter here, and if we don't, then this whole operation is nothing, because nobody's actually using us for group NIL deals.
They don't want this to set a precedent.
Correct.
They're not really worried about this specifically in a vacuum, but they're looking at it from a big picture standpoint.
Yeah. Reading from The Athletic here, the game appears to remain on schedule for the summer of 2024. The game doesn't need real players, but it's something everyone wants. It doesn't do anyone any good to not have that. The Brandr Group has not asked EA to stop making the game, and sports business lawyer Mitt Winter told The Athletic that an injunction to stop it would be unlikely to succeed, that this is largely a sports business and licensing, not game release from an issue standpoint. Besides, the process of uploading player likeness is not as time intensive as creating the actual gameplay, and the game can download roster updates at needed at any point. So that's not a problem. It's not, the players getting inside the game is not a timeliness issue that is causing any problems to the game being released. As people have said for a while, the game is being built on the same platform as the Madden game, and Road to Glory Dynasty modes will be the main focus. They're going to have the uniforms, school-specific traditions, music, all that stuff, and it also is expected to include the transfer portal and an expanded college football playoff. So those are your formats for the game there. Transfer portal in the video game, baby.
I feel sorry for the person that's got to keep up with the transfer portal for 100 and whatever teams. Have fun.
Yeah. You start your dynasty and you got the transfer portal and NIL and the whole deal in your video game. Here we go.
Yeah, it's probably easier than it sounds, but to me that just sounds really confusing, really hard to do.
What's the last video game you played?
MLB The Show.
A while ago?
Yeah, it's been multiple years. May have done it some with Carson during the pandemic, like summer of 2020. That, and I'm not even sure about that. It may have been before that. I had my own create your player and go through the minor leagues thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I had it set on too easy because, I hit like 130 home runs. And so, I mean, I was an elite prospect. I got called up quick. But that was probably the last one. I was never a big video game person. It was never my weakness. That was like, I can remember as a kid, we had them. We had an Atari, and then I guess we got a Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
There was a kid up the street that had an Intellivision. And that was kind of cool. I liked the Intellivision.
Ooh.
Yeah. But I always liked getting out and playing more than I wanted to play the games. I wanted to go play.
We've come a long way from Pong.
Yeah, Space Invaders, Asteroid was what it's called, or something like that. Pac-Man. I remember Pac-Man being a big deal.
Okay.
But again, I always wanted to get out and let's go play wiffle ball. Like, I played a lot of wiffle ball.
Yeah, I had an original Nintendo when I was still pretty young. I mean, frankly, not even old enough to completely comprehend it, probably. Um, and then Super Nintendo to PlayStation, maybe a PS2, and that's where it kind of stopped for me. I was kind of the same way. I was never overly whatever. I don't know that I've had a game system in my home since living at home, and it was the Wii. I know as an adult living in my house, I have not owned a game system.
Carson's got a
I don't have
PS3.
any issue with them. I see how they make a lot of sense for people. It's not a thing.
Carson's got a PS3. He plays a lot of the FIFA game on it.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid in Ruston, there was a place called Extra Play. It was an arcade, and that was the place to be. It was right across the street from Johnny's Pizza, and it was next door to. There was some sort of a convenience store that was next door, if I recall correctly. It wasn't far from the Louisiana Tech campus at all, like just a couple hundred yards. And that was the place to be. You'd take all your money and go to Extra Play on Friday night.
Sammy. Sorry, you got to be in the stream.
Yeah.
Wait, Johnny's Pizza gets a lot of play on the podcast. They should advertise.
They should.
We talk about Johnny's a lot. We've had people go to Johnny's and text us and go, "Hey, we're hanging out at Johnny's."
Yeah, and people will come back and go, it's not very good, and I'm like, it's a nostalgia thing. It's not even about you could give me a Johnny's Pizza today, and I would go, that's 1,000 out of 1 to 10. That's 1,000. And yet, if I weren't from where I was from, I'd probably go, whatever. It's pizza.
Could you pick it out of a 3 pizza lineup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you told me I don't remember actually playing a video game a lot since maybe like Wii Mario Kart, honestly. I mean, it's been forever. Played a little like Grand Theft Auto stuff in college. But if you told me today you can have a game system, it literally would be an original Nintendo or like a Super Nintendo. Give me the old games. I'll play Contra and crap like that from like 1988. That's what I'll do. Give me the old stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, I know this is being nostalgic, and it's part of just getting old. But like the 80s were fun growing up in the 80s. Like the arcades and movie rentals, like you go look for a movie and you're like, son of a bitch, it's there. I mean, you had to it wasn't a guarantee that you went to the new release section and you were going to get
God, no.
Was no guarantee
no.
that you were going to get what you wanted.
Well, and then Movie Gallery and Amory did this thing where they, when they moved from like 1 or 2 night rentals to 5. Well, when it's 5, you're screwed because you're out for like 3.5 days if that thing is gone to somebody else and you're coming back in, and then they don't bring it back on time and they get charged the 75 cents or whatever on the late day. And I mean, they're holding your movie hostage at that point. I mean, it is what it is.
Or you got it and you came home and you like Friday nights planned on this movie and you put that thing in the VCR and it doesn't work. It's got a thing and something's wrong with it. You can't watch the movie. That was a downer. You couldn't just pull it up on Hulu or something. I mean, that was it. It's a different day.
Everybody likes the decade that they grew up in for different reasons. I understand that. I mean, for all purposes, I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 83. I do think, though, if you go, hey, you could shift it. There is some real positives about growing up in the 80s that kind of pure and fun and interesting. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Because I got just enough, what you're talking about, some of those things. I mean, we absolutely had to scheme the movie theaters. You had one, or the movie rental places. You had a couple that were a little cheaper in places other else. There was movies that basically only I would want to watch. So one of them you would have to sign it out, and you look at it, and my name is just all the way down the list. Where I just over and over and over again was the only person in Amory that apparently watched those movies. Yeah, simpler time for sure.
Oh,
You get the quarters out, you find the 225 or whatever the rental was, and
yep.
or
Oh,
I mean, even when I went to video game rentals and you were going, "Hey, I've got 3 days to beat this game. That's all I got. So let's lock in."
yeah, for sure. Those, no question, simpler times. No doubt, no doubt. I mean, I've said this a bunch. I feel for kids today. I mean, it's everything's at their disposal, which is a good thing. It's also a terrible thing.
It is. It's terrible.
It is. I mean, just the
Social media, I mean, not to get on some soapbox, social media has altered perception in a way that is impossible to overstate.
yeah. I don't think it can be measured yet.
Um, do you still listen to 80s music?
Sometimes,
Okay. It's on my presets.
yeah. I
And I
mean,
mean, I did not grow up in the 80s in any way that I would be the music from then.
yeah. Ginger says Pizza Hut on Friday night. Yep. Yep. I
The
mean,
buffets were big back then. The
yeah.
Pizza Hut buffet.
Going to Pizza Hut was a treat, man. I mean, that meant mom and dad were in a great mood. We were going to Pizza Hut. I mean, going to the movie on a Friday night, you had to get there an hour early to be guaranteed that you'd get in.
Mm-hmm.
You stood in line and for an hour to go see whatever.
Well, I mean, we had to go to Tupelo for anything that had a lot of like attraction because Amory only had the twin cinema. Okay, we had two theaters. We had
That's
two
all Rustin
screens.
had was 2 screens.
Did you have two? Yeah, we had
Well,
two.
maybe 3, maybe 3 screens. And it would always be like the one movie you wanted to see, some
And then a
kid
kids
movie, and then
Yeah.
some obscure movie that you're like, nobody's in there. What are you doing? But I didn't understand the movie business.
It's why when I was in junior high, I saw Titanic somewhere around 38 times because you're in Amory and it's the weekend, and what do you got to do? Because Titanic stayed for like 6 months, so
Yeah,
it had one of the screens.
it was a banger. It was
So
a money maker.
yeah, you would do that, and then occasionally you'd go, "Hey, they're gonna let me in the rated R movie, but I can get in the other movie, and we'll just sneak over into the other screen at some point when you can do that." So you'll catch the James Bond flick or something like that you couldn't just get in being 13 or 12 or whatever at the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. When you wanted to
yeah, you had to
slip into the rated R movie.
to get one of the other ones. I think I'd have to check my years. Maybe I'm off on this. I think it's a Michael Douglas movie. Was it The Perfect Murder? Maybe something like that. I remember that was one that we had to sneak over into. There was a few. Yeah, something like that.
You had to scheme. You
Um,
had to have a plan because
yeah.
you didn't. If the movie guy caught you,
Yeah, the usher can't get you, so you got to be able to make sure you're good there.
man, different world. You thought that usher. Looking back on it, the usher was some dude who was like, I don't want to be here. It's
He did not care.
the only job I've got. But man, back then you're like, that dude, he's got the power.
That is what it was. Michael Douglas, A Perfect Murder, because that came out in '98, so I was in 8th or ninth grade at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Wall Street Baron Stephen Taylor discovers that his pretty young wife, Emily, Gwyneth Paltrow, is cheating on him, but what concerns him more than her infidelity is the hope of profiting from her untimely death. Emily has millions, and Steve's own financial empire is collapsing before his eyes. He hires her lover to murder her.
Oh, sounds pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So there's that. I don't know the last time I played pinball. I mean, it has been years. I could not tell you.
We had a this show's off the rails, and I'm sorry.
It's fine.
When I was in the 6th grade, I won't name names. I won't name names. I have like 2 memories from the 6th grade. One is there was one day that we saw the space shuttle being flown back across the country. It had to land in California, and they were flying it back to Florida, and it was going right over Ruston, and we got to go out and watch it.
Okay.
That was one memory. And the other was there was an assistant principal who also taught math, whatever math we did in the 6th grade. No, 7th grade. I don't know. One of those grades. And he always put his hands in his pockets, his front pockets.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Moved his hands around. And there was a girl who sat behind me who would always get me in trouble because she would make pinball sounds, and she could do them really subtly, very lightly, where nobody could hear it unless you were like within a 4-foot radius. Well, I was within the 4-foot radius, and I'd howl laughing because I knew what she was doing, pocket pinball. And it was hilarious. That's one of my memories. When you say pinball, I think of that teacher and that girl.
I don't remember. There might have been some space shuttle thing. I don't recall that. I mean, obviously the OJ verdict. We sat in class and watched that. There was a few TV things over the years that we would have stopped to follow. I do remember OJ was one of them though, because I would have been 11.
Oh yeah, you're a lot younger than me. I was.
Yeah.
I remember everything about.
You were like 23, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I turned 40 in December. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. We can wax poetic about Channel 1 news and all that stuff later. Spring's in full swing. Summer right around the corner. Heavenly Sunshine Property Services would like to take the opportunity to remind you about the importance of taking care of your outdoor living spaces. Regular maintenance is a key to preserving the beauty and integrity of your home or business, and one of the most effective ways to maintain is through power washing. Some of the key benefits include increased curb appeal, damage prevention, creating a healthier environment, and it also saves you time and money. They've been serving the Mid-South and Oxford for 4 decades. Their full-service commercial and residential property maintenance includes power washing, soft wash, roof cleaning, facade cleaning, and window cleaning. Don't wait until it's too late. Contact Heavenly Sunshine today and get ready for a brighter, cleaner outdoor living space. Visit the website heavenlysunshine.com or call 662-342-1203 to book your free estimate. Use code MPW10 for a 10% discount.
We're also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're planning a summer trip, still got plenty of time left in the summer. If you're planning a holiday trip, whatever the case may be, get in touch with John. Give him some parameters. Give him a budget. He's going to help you come up with options that you're not going to find on your own. You don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of the services. You just need a phone or a email. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net. Great place for a company dinner or a festive party event is Opa on the Square in Oxford. It's Oxford's newest Greek restaurant. Fabulous food, great craft libations as well. Opa can accommodate up to 200 guests. For catering or booking information, contact Jeannie, 601-421-7147. Brought to you by Service Specialist Staffing and Recruiting Agency, connecting great job opportunities to candidates since 1967. If you're on the job hunt, whether you're seeking an entry-level position or you're a seasoned professional, they have opportunities across the board. They also can help your company find quality, hard-to-find talent. Service Specialist, it's always free for the person looking for a job, and for a company, unless you hire a candidate, until you hire a candidate that they send, it's free for you as well. So give Will, Sydney, or Kelsey a call, 662-832-5138, or check out their new and improved website, servicespecialistltd.com. Get the beautiful and healthy smile you deserve at Corinth Dental. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures that will result in a beautiful, long-lasting smile. From routine checkups to advanced treatment, including implants and Invisalign, Corinth Dental is here to help you achieve your smile goals. Schedule your appointment today. Take the first step toward a better version of yourself. It's corinthdental.com. Are you a displaced? I've already done that one. Southern Traditions Farm is a 68-acre, 32-stall upscale equestrian training and boarding facility in Canton, Mississippi. 2 sand rings, a grass ring, miles of wooded trails. So much offered at Southern Traditions, including horseback ridings, from beginner lessons to advanced ridings, to be able to compete at nationally recognized competitions. It's also a great venue for events and conventions and the like. So get in touch with them on Facebook or Instagram at Southern Traditions Farm.
Podcast is brought to you by Northeast Spark, NESPARC, service people across rural communities. Two packages, the Ignite, the 100 Mbps, or the Blaze, the 1 gig that powers the Clark Ford studio. Your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband. That's nespark.com, 662-238-3159. Phone service, parental controls, network security, or a wireless mesh extender for those who need the extra help. So if you get the best internet in Lafayette County, also parts of Union and Pontotoc counties. If you previously did not have internet, that's 662-238-3159. I saw a couple people in the stream mentioning the Titan submersive that is still lost at sea. If you get your news just from us, God help you. But the quick update there is no huge update. However, the U.S. Coast Guard says a noise was heard in the sub search site, which gives them a target and a focus. The noise is picked up by a Canadian aircraft that was involved in the search. Banging sounds is how it's been described. And they said more vessels are being sent to the search site off the North American coast. Contact with the miniature sub, which has 5 people on board, was lost on Sunday as it made its 3,800-meter descent toward the Titanic wreckage. And they think that air supply will run out sometime on Thursday morning if it is not found. So a little under 24 hours from now at that point. What I don't get is what I haven't heard is, even if it's found, how long does it take to get to the surface where they can open it? So, I mean, how much extra time do you need? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you can't just
Or
you
or
can't.
does it have to be found only on the surface where they simply have a mechanical failure, which I don't think is the case. But if it's found deep in the water, can they even get them out in time if they found it in an hour? I guess is my question.
Yeah, I don't know how long it takes to bring them to the surface safely. It doesn't sound very hopeful.
No, I mean there is more hope because I mean the prevailing thought last night was there was some sort of instant catastrophe. Um, if you watch a couple of they're linked in the message board thread about it at rebelgrove.com, but a couple of the graphics showing how deep they went, it is fascinating. Or how deep they were going. I mean, I saw one diagram, and I could be a little off here, but just doing the rudimentary math that I was doing, I think it was the depth of 9 Eiffel Towers into the ocean, something like that. Yeah.
Reading from Daily Mail, they're giving them a 1% chance.
Oh, really?
They have a 1% chance of survival.
They're deadbolted in by 17 deadbolts. So even if they were on the surface, they have no way to get out. And yeah, as Hardman says, I mean, depressurization would kill them. You can't just pop. You like there's a time frame. That's what I was talking about. I mean, there's a time frame to even safely be able to do the recovery if you found it. And I don't know what that stipulation is. Just something to follow here, something to look at if you're interested in college football moving forward, which all you guys are, thank God. ESPN doing future power rankings for the next 3 seasons. They do this every year. We typically talk about it to some extent. I won't bore people with it, but they look at current rosters, the ability to recruit, coaching staffs. They give a lot of benefit of the doubt, too. They basically admit that if some programs have been good over the last 5 years or so, they're going to stay with that unless there's some reason that it's not to. It's a personnel-based forecast that also has some other assumptions built into it. Ole Miss checking in at number 25 on the list. Off the top of your head, does that feel right, high, or low?
I mean, the cop-out answer is, how in God's name can you forecast anything 3 years today? But
You can. It's summer content.
yeah,
They have their future offense ranking at 18.
I think 25 is a little low, but again, now, I mean, look, if you told me that in 3 years Ole Miss is a top 10 program, I'd totally buy it. If you told me in 3 years Ole Miss was a 500 program fighting to get its footing, I'd buy it. And that would apply to about half the SEC. I'll be honest, For me, there's one program that I feel completely confident going, they're going to keep winning. And that's Georgia. One. Feel pretty good about LSU and pretty good about Alabama. And then there's a group, Ole Miss, Tennessee, maybe Florida. Everybody's got different thoughts on Florida. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place on Florida. Maybe South Carolina, maybe Auburn, maybe Arkansas. Just kind of off the top of my head. Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M. That big conglomerate of a group. You could convince me. I'd probably put Oklahoma because of its history and because they've won with everybody but Venables. I probably would put Oklahoma up with Alabama and LSU. But those others, like you could convince me South Carolina was, because of where they are with pay for play and stuff, you could convince me that South Carolina is going to be a top 12 program in 3 years. And you could convince me they're 500 program fighting for footing. I'd buy either one.
They go
Tennessee as well.
into ESPN goes into a lot of depth that you guys already know, so I won't read it about what Ole Miss's roster looks like, Judkins, quarterbacks, all that stuff. But their lead in says the final spot in team rankings is always a difficult choice. There were several teams considered, including BYU, Texas Tech, Minnesota, Mississippi State, Fresno, Louisville, Boise State, NC State, and Kentucky. But ultimately, Ole Miss's personnel clout won the day as Coach Lane Kiffin continues to collect talent through recruiting in the portal.
Yeah, that's.
They thought they just had a higher recruiting ceiling than the other teams that were being considered.
The SEC schools, it's Georgia's 1, Alabama's 2, LSU is 5, Clemson, which might be in the SEC before you know it, is like 7. Tennessee's 9.
That feels high.
Yeah, it feels a little high. Oklahoma's 12. I buy that. Texas is 15, which frankly feels a little high to me.
It does. They're giving them a lot of quarterback mileage.
They are. Iowa, Oregon State. South Carolina's 22. See, they're kind of like South Carolina and Ole Miss, kind of in the same little boat in my mind. Like volatile and not necessarily in a bad way. Just an Ole Miss at 25. Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Oregon State at 21. I would sell because the Pac-12 is going to be nothing at that point. But Jonathan Smith's done one hell of a job there in Corvallis. He's good.
Here's what the Pac-12 might be in a few years. The Pac-12 and the ACC leftovers might form a pretty interesting league.
West and East.
You could do it by divisions, West and East. You could have some crossover.
I mean, that would be your first call, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but in a couple of years, the Big Ten's going to add somebody. Maybe it's Notre Dame. Maybe it's Notre Dame and Miami. I think some of these ACC schools, I've been saying this, and I'm a little more educated on it today than I even was yesterday. I think some of these ACC schools are more antsy than anyone has reported. And when the SEC counters, and it will, ESPN, which also has the ACC rights, is going to have some decisions to make. Is North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, are those programs more valuable to ESPN as members of the SEC or members of the ACC?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what ESPN's answer is. I've talked to a couple of educated people who think the answer is very clearly SEC, at which point ESPN's going to start making some of this happen. And this, hey, fight to hold it together is going to turn into, okay, what do we do next? And that might be the answer. Because I think you're going to see the Big 12 take a couple of Pac-10 schools fairly soon. And when I say fairly soon, I mean 3 years.
Yeah. There's a bit of a pin in it right now.
There's a sense in the Big Two, and that's what it is. It's the Power Two, SEC, Big Ten. Hey, let's let 2024 play out, see what it looks like, see what it feels like, and then we'll go from there. But that's not far away. I mean, we're about to start the 2023 season, which I've been saying is going to be a season of nostalgia. Hey, this was fun. We did this for a long time. Wow, we made a lot of money. But 2024 is going to be completely different. Oklahoma, Texas, SC, UCLA, a 12-team playoff. I just think you're going to see everybody look at it and go, okay, let's see what this looks like. And then we'll go from there. And then I think the go from there is a pretty aggressive go. Unless it's a disaster, and it probably won't be.
No, I highly doubt it's a disaster.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of excitement around USC Ohio State as a conference game. Do you know what it's going to be like here when Oklahoma comes here in 2024?
Let's see.
It's going to be a buzz. It's going to feel new. I think Texas goes to Tuscaloosa, I think, or something like that. I don't remember exactly who goes where, but those are big games. People are going to get geeked up about that stuff.
I think Texas and Oklahoma actually get home games with Alabama and Georgia in 24.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, whatever the case may be, around the league, like when Texas goes to Vanderbilt, you mean Texas people are going to go to Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
I just think and you're going to get that in the Big Ten too, and then the 12-team playoff, which I think is going to be a very compelling conversation over the course of a year. And my guess is that the SEC and the Big Ten will dominate the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
And at that point, teams are going to look around and go, this doesn't work. And what I'm hearing is that there are 5 schools specifically in the ACC that are behind the scenes very vocally saying this does not work. This won't work.
Tomorrow, we're going to do some NBA draft stuff. We'll talk to Jeffrey. I'm just kind of curious. Whatever what do they call the overtime elite are? They have to be good, right? Because they have like 3 of the top 9 projected picks.
Amin Thompson has a chance to be an All NBA caliber player. He's really good.
He's projected 4 to Houston in this draft. I'm looking at
his brother Alsar is one of the high ceiling, low floor guys. Got kind
6 for the Magic.
Got kind of a funky shot. He's one of 2 or 3 guys in the draft. Anthony Black from Arkansas, Bilal Koulibaly from France, that if they develop a shot, they're off the charts good players. But not everybody develops a shot. And if they don't develop a shot, I don't know that they can play.
Anthony Black, number 8 to the Wizards.
That's the consensus, is that he goes there. Here's what's interesting about the draft. We'll talk about this more tomorrow, but Damian Lillard has, quote, I have nothing but love for Portland, but it's clear we're headed in 2 different directions. So the Trailblazers now staring a rebuild in the face. They have the 3rd pick. A lot of Scoot Henderson talk with them. There's a lot of talk about what Charlotte might do at 2. A lot of teams trying to trade up. There's 2 or 3 teams, Utah, Oklahoma City, that have the assets to trade up if they choose to. There's a number of things that could happen during the draft tomorrow to make it pretty volatile. And those things usually don't happen. But when you have Damian Lillard on the trade block, Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson reportedly on the trade block, Paul George maybe on the trade block, when you have those kinds of names out there and multiple teams like Dallas, for example, has the 10th pick and the consensus is they really don't want it. Here's another wild card for you. you have to be kind of deep in the NBA weeds to know about this, but the Thunder have owned the draft rights to Vasily Micic, who was the EuroLeague MVP last year. He's 29 years old. He plays in Serbia on the Serbia national team with God, can you believe I'm forgetting a name? Jokic.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a legitimately good player. There's talk about him going to Dallas with the future pick, the Thunder getting Dallas's 10th pick, and then the Thunder taking the 10th and the 12th pick, packaging that with maybe another future pick and trading up to 7 to 8, getting a play. There's just a lot of stuff at play. Utah has a ton of assets. It's believed that Utah really covets Anthony Black from Arkansas. A couple of Koulibaly, Kobe Buffkin from Michigan's a fast riser. He went from being projected at like 20-something to now being projected as a top 10 pick. It's got a chance to be a pretty interesting night because there's a lot of teams going in different directions, and you've got some older teams that don't really have assets, that don't really have picks, that are trying to get into the draft to get a first-round player, because a first-round player is a cheap contract to flesh out your roster.
Sure. So we'll hit that tomorrow. Brandon Miller currently projected number 2 to Charlotte in this. I'm looking at in front of me from John Hollinger. So there's that. Again, hit plenty of those things, several different things, actually content-wise, that I will talk about in the middle of that. I find it interesting. I've been being really a big NBA guy. So, all right. Thank you guys for sticking with us. By the way, Sammy, that was pretty funny, calling the Pac-12 ACC thing the Continental Conference. That was good. They should take you up on that.
Wouldn't be the worst name.
That's not the worst name. I kind of
No?
like that. So anyway, Rebel Grove in the meantime, comment, subscribe, all those things. Come in and hang out with us. Again, as Neal said, same price. In the meantime, we'll be back with you today or tomorrow. Sorry. Stay safe. Take care. We'll talk to you then.